Good evening and welcome to another edition of Tok Piksa. In August 2011, the National Executive Council in the then O'Neill Nama government established the Investigation Task Force SWEEP. Their main order of business was to investigate allegations on the massive misapplication of funds in the Department of National Planning. What they found was that between 2009 and 2011, billions of development funds were parked at National Planning Department instead of the Departments of Finance and Treasury or other implementing agencies. Their investigations, conducted over 2 years, brought to light instances of fraud by those in senior positions of financial authority. Mr. Koim, thank you for your time and welcome to the show.
Thank you, and good to be back here.
Yes. Now, when you were last on Tok Piksa, it was at the advent of ITFS. A lot of things have happened then. Since being formed in 2011, you've had one conviction with the former Minister for Treasury. That came out of the reason for the setting up of ITFS, which was to investigate the National Department of Planning. What was it? What accomplishment can you see in the conviction of former Minister Paul Tienstin?
Yes, well, it's 3 convictions so far. But of course, Paul Tienstin's conviction is the highlight of the criminal prosecutions that were conducted. And yes, the conviction itself sends a very strong message. And I said it qualifying that I understand he has lodged an appeal against the sentencing. But the fact that the court that arrived at the decision to sentence him to 9 years, 1 year short of the maximum penalty of 10 years, sends a very strong message to the country and the people and the potential offenders.
So you'll know that people out there who've been following the case of Mr. Tienstin, some would say that it was just a footnote that he made, but it was bigger than that. Could you explain, please?
You see, that the directive, and the court made a finding, the directive caused everybody down the line to break all laws. And whether it's a footnote or a written directive, it has caused everybody down the line to break all laws and appropriate monies to a company that was not entitled to, and that was the finding of the court. So in law and the laws that we have, there is no such thing as political directive. You don't find anything called political directive in any of the laws, including the Constitution, the Public Finance Management Act, any other law, unless you are empowered by your respective legislation or enabling law that the minister has power to give such a directive. You don't have any other authority called political directive, and so far as the law is concerned.
With regards to political directive, many would assume that many of our leaders issue footnotes on every day if they're faced with a decision to make. Is that the case, and should they be doing that?
They shouldn't if they're delving into issues of appropriating funds or allocating funds or issues of where the proper procurement authority should decide on who should get what. There's already legal provisions made for it under the Public Finance Management Act, the Financial Instructions, and other respective legislations. So insofar as appropriating of funds or procurement of goods and services is concerned, there are lawful authorities established under law to do that, and there is no such thing as political directive to a particular person or company, or they can approve that. The Minister for Finance is given the authority to approve in certain circumstances, but that is within services and transfer within services and all this, where he can liaise with his secretary. Other than that, like I said, if you are given that authority under law to give such a directive or opinion or direction, then you can do. Otherwise, there is no such thing called political directive so far as the law is concerned.
With this use of this alleged political directive, there are officers down the line who have to comply to something that a minister says. Now, in national planning, since you started investigations, has it improved, and what about the state of other departments?
You see, at the time when we investigated the National Planning Department, most of the projects, particularly development projects, and the development budget, most of it was parked under the National Planning Department against the implementing agencies or the agencies that are competent to deliver those projects. So that's why National Planning became a mini Treasury, if you like, and a mini Finance Department. So they started writing checks to contractors at will and approving projects and all this. As a result of our investigations and our close communication with the government to improve it, what happened then was that most of the projects are now removed, and they have been, revert back to the agencies that's supposed to deliver, like the RESI project or other projects that are not supposed to be there. So most of the projects are now removed. National Planning is now allowed to perform its mandated primary function of planning for the country, monitoring projects, and coordinating loans and other grants as well. So as I understand, most of that project is taken away, so there's not much funds available for people to deliver, give out as they wish. So to that extent, we've seen the improvement as a result of our investigations. And of course, we have charged a lot of officers at National Planning Department as a result of our work. And their cases are going through the normal court process.
Right. Now, that's national planning. Are there any other government departments that are currently under your radar?
Yes, we started off with national planning, but then over time, the government has extended our scope to look at all other government departments, and of course, we've investigated a number of cases at the Health Department. We've also investigated a number of cases in other departments, including the Finance Department, of which the latest being the Paul Parker lawyers case.
Okay. And with the convictions that you've managed so far, you've said that has a positive effect also on the way other public servants are doing their jobs. Is that correct?
Yes. Now it shows that there's the deterrence message that is being sent is that you will be caught and you will be brought to court and you can be sent to jail. So that's the message that is being sent, and those public officials as well as private persons who are colluding to defraud the state, now know that at least someone is watching over their shoulders.
Three convictions on and pushing the message of anti-corruption, ITFS has achieved more than they have expected. Chairman Sam Koim acknowledges that through all the red tape and death threats, successful convictions have sent a strong message to the public, and that is, if you do something wrong, the law will inevitably catch up with you. A relevant message, seeing that the influx of LNG revenue, we could soon be facing stronger, more integrated forms of corruption. It's something Chairman Koim is paying close attention to. So you've recently made announcements on the status of ITFS, the state of its investigations, and in it also you've presented a speech that you gave to the PNG Australia Business Council meeting in Cairns recently. Part of that speech focused on the fact that with the LNG project and with expected revenues inflowing to the country, there would be more instances of new types of corruption, would you say?
When you have, a lot of money available, and if we do not put the mechanisms in place to make sure that that excess wealth, unprecedented excess wealth, translates into socioeconomic development, then you have a pool of money, floating around, for instance, in Port Moresby for the matter, and, that produces opportunistic behavior where people can seize the opportunity, see excess of money, they have access to it, they have means to do it. So it tempts people to steal money, So where there's plentiful, such behavior increases as well. So in order to mitigate those, we must explore options to make sure that the excess wealth then translates into real development.
What are these options that you speak of?
Well, some of the options that I spoke of is particularly in, I call the, prevention of our, excess wealth going out. I described it as a fence, fencing our economy against what I call economic predators and leeches and rodents that might intrude. They can be, people from within or fly-by investors. They prey on our naivety. They see that we cannot. Sometimes we don't find out who they are, where they're coming from, whether they have the capacity. They can be a $2 company in their own country. They just come in and then we just fall prey because of our lack of knowledge. So there can be people like that, and then, in order to prevent money from going out of the country, we have to tighten our tax regimes and arrangements so that there's no transfer pricing, there's no money given out without paying tax and all this. So I understand the government is taking on the tax review committee is looking into all of that, and then in the near future we will see some improvements as a result of that review. And also money laundering instances where people then layer and structure how to transfer money out of this country, and when they steal money, they will always find opportunity to bring it out to stable economies outside of this country. So we have to prevent that by working closely with the banks and the Financial Intelligence Unit and all other government departments that are working on it have that very important role to play. With respect to, I mentioned something about drainage. You see, when you look at it, corruption has over time burrowed into the public service delivery mechanisms. So there's holes here and there that needs to be patched, and then so that you allow the excess wealth to be translated into real development, and you get value for money on the ground. Over the years, corruption has grown unabated, and as a result of that, it then had a corrosive effect on the service delivery mechanisms. So what we need to do now is to strengthen those institutions, build strong governance structures and compliance mechanisms so that the excess wealth then is translated into real development. And if we do not have the capacity to manage the excess wealth, then the sovereign wealth fund is one of the ways to then park the excess wealth outside of our economy so that we do not enter into all those other effects of inflationary effects and all this. So I think that's created to one of the ways that can mitigate all those. But I think most importantly, our government institutions have to be strengthened, empowered, and properly manned with people who can actually do the job.
Investigation Task Force Sweep has not only had to deal with instances of corruption and financial fraud domestically. Their investigations have led them offshore. And despite a deafening silence at the start of ITFS's inquiries with authorities in our closest trading partner, it seems other countries are regaining confidence in our public servants to stand up to the wave of corruption that PNG has become renowned for. This is actually motivating more and more of our international friends to come on board with advice and experience in the fight against corruption. Mr. Coyne, the speech you made to the Australia PNG Business Council in Cairns, Australia has always been a close neighbor to PNG. They've always been working together on our projects. They've always been involved in our activities. But there's an element of corruption that is extended to Australia, crossing our borders in regards to finance. Previously, when we've spoken, you've mentioned the fact that Australia needs to work more closely with PNG in that area. Has that situation improved?
Yes. Well, as a result of our close relationship, and it has been reported that, Australia's investment in PNG has increased to 20 billion Australian dollars over the, how many years and so far. And also, our two-way trade as of end of last year, stands at 5.8 billion Australian dollars, as it was reported. So you see the amount of money that flows between our two borders. So that also, when I mentioned that the speech, I said, look, it was also reported that, at least 200 million Australian dollars of PNG corrupt money enters into the Australian banks and the real estate industry. So considering all of that, we have to build strong mechanisms to ensure that the two-way trade is made up of clean money, if you like. So far, prior to my speech in October 2012, yes. Not much has been done, I have to admit. But after my speech and my, working closely with the Australian counterparts, I'm beginning to see an increasing appetite to help us. And so far, they've helped as a result of sweep investigations. They've helped us to, implement 2 mutual legal assistance requests that we've sent, and they've restrained assets in Australia as well. There are some investigations that we are conducting, cross-border investigations that we are conducting. So they're beginning to show interest. We've signed a MOU, and as a result of the MOU, we're sharing intelligence information, and we've received some information that is very useful to us as well. So I'm beginning to see increasing appetite in assisting us to curtail the level of money laundering. And I know the banks are also stepping up, particularly those banks that also have corresponding relationship or their parent banks in Australia. They're stepping up to ensure that the transactions are not comprised of illicit proceeds. So that's I see that that's a development from what it used to be. So I would say that so far, we are seeing some eagerness in doing the right thing in this area.
And you were also receiving advice and help from other countries. Is that correct?
Yes, some countries, they help us, like UK, like the US, through their respective embassies here. They communicate with us and provide whatever information or assistance we need, including like UK organized this conference where all the respective stakeholder agencies came together. Banks and other, respective institutions participated in that conference. We also extended the invitation to other Pacific Island countries, and Fiji, Solomon Islands also attended the conference, and that's something positive that the UK government has contributed as well.
Okay. Now, since 2011, you would have been able to see that the trend of corruption in PNG to date. Are we still doing the same things, or have our corrupt people in our public service and the private sector, have they found new ways to dodge the bullet?
Well, your question basically answers, you're basically answering your own question, if I may say. Where you find human beings, you will find improper behavior as well, and including corruption. Where you find people, you also find corruption. And corruption as an element of growth. Every time you try to close in on one instance or trend of corruption, they then devise new ways to do it. So far, like our experience with National Planning Department and other departments, there was a bit of flagrant abuse of public funds or even stealing. They get the funding under the pretext of doing a project, and the project is never done. Those were some instances. Or they use $2 companies that have no history of transaction in the bank, they have no history of doing business, they have no capital whatsoever to the project. But for those in power giving them the money. So those were the instances that we uncovered previously. Now it has grown. Sometimes people are using well-established firms to give projects. Sometimes I would say that it's not as used to be, like you get the fund and never do the project. Now they may get the fund, they do the project, but at an inflated price. So how to ascertain how much is actually valued of that project is a challenge on the anti-corruption perspective. So how, that needs, you have to unwind the contract, you have to get engineers to do costing assessment to verify whether the cost actually is equal to the value of the project. So that's when it gets complicated as you go around. But I would say that the instances where people just picking up funds and not doing the project has to a greater extent been minimized as a result of our work. But now it's now changing its trend.
In PNG, people have become accustomed to seeing large amounts of money being flashed around by many of our leaders. And while our leaders go around handing out checks and developmental funding to show that funds that they have control over are being put to good use, there is still a lot that goes on behind closed doors of public offices that we know little about. If there is one thing that Chairman Sam Coyme acknowledges, it is the fact that corruption can never be totally eradicated. What we hope is that as we grow, we will learn to deal with the different types of corruption the best way that PNG knows how. We couldn't bring the complete interview with Mr. Coyme this evening, so we will continue our conversation with the ITFS chairman in our Wednesday edition of Tok Piksa next week. We hope you can join us then. Good night.
Good night.